Today's subject is innovation, and when you want to learn about innovation, you come to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Ross School of Business professor, the Dean of Innovation himself, my friend, Dr. Jeff DeGraff. And he is an expert on innovation. You've worked with companies of all sizes, but the list goes on and on. I know it's Apple and GE and J&J and Pfizer and Toyota. I could give a who's who of lists. But first of all, what do companies call you in for, or when are you first called and involved in projects?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because usually a company doesn't call me if it's doing really well. A company doesn't call me if it's got a great reputation for innovation. Usually, a company calls me when it's stumbled. A product that they thought was going to work, or an industry that they thought was going to pan out doesn't pan out. But usually, the challenge is very simple. They have a strategy, and they can't connect the dots. They can't sync it up. They don't have the capability to run it. So they've got an idea where the opportunity is. Maybe they've got a winning technology. But the issue is, how do I get that entire organization, their skills, their culture, their practices, the methods that we run, the way we finance this, the strategies that we've got in the various units, how do we sync all that up? And so what I've done for the past 25 years is work with those companies and develop a lot of the tools and methods that they use to do that.
Well, in this environment that we're in, you must have some kind of 911 number for you, because certainly I would think the nature of this recession maybe even either increase the number of calls or maybe the urgency of those calls.
Yeah, I like to say that in a down market, innovation isn't your best friend, it's your only friend. So I like Indiana Jones, I like to say it's not the years, it's the miles. And it's last year I have platinum cards on 2 different airlines. So I try and balance my life as much as I can, but I also try and be as helpful as I can.
Well, we're here in this new Innovatorium, really, this whole new center that you've built, and I understand there's another one. What was the vision behind this, and what is this all about?
Well, it occurred to me that there was a lot of work that companies can't do. The creative work the company can't do is this personal kind of creative work, this individual innovation work. And it seemed to me that there wasn't any place that people were being apprenticed. And one of the great things that universities are terrific at is this old idea of see one, do one, teach one. So think about how a medical doctor becomes a doctor. They go to medical school for a few years, they follow a doctor around, they become a resident, which we call combat education, and eventually they become a physician, and eventually the attending physician who teaches. Well, innovation's not any different. You're not going to really learn how to do this just out of a book. You've actually got to practice and practice and practice. So I spent my own money, built this center, and gave keys to all of the professors who I thought were doing this kind of work. We have student groups in here all the time, and we have companies in here all the time. So the object was to create Switzerland, a neutral place where everyone got together and they made things better and new. And that's what this has become, this one and the one in Atlanta.
And do you have other Innovatorium ideas for other places as well?
Well, we have a lot of Innovatoriums in large companies. They're not called Innovatoriums, but basically that's what they are. They're communities of practice, of innovation practitioners. And so, whether it's at General Electric or whether it's at Coca-Cola, there are these kind of things that you're going to see. And certainly we have our connection to them and try and be as helpful as we can so that they can make products and services better and new, and most importantly, so they can develop talent.
Recent years, obviously with this difficult economy, a lot of students, a lot of people in companies, a lot of people who are unemployed go to you and say, you've helped innovate companies, can you help me, because I need to kind of reinvent myself or think about how do I get on the market. And so you've taken a lot of that information and turned it into helping individuals. You have a new book out, Innovation U, and a program on PBS to National Public Television, I should say, to really get that out. What was that like? What made you decide to take the corporate training in this government nonprofit and put it toward an individual?
Well, there's a very interesting story. In 2007, I had been an advisor to the Federal Reserve and a number of other places, and it looked to me like things were going to go wrong. And I went around and told everybody that I cared about, things are going to go wrong, the sky is falling, And I was writing a book for a very high-end business publication to kind of show off all of this, all of my wares, how I predict value using my innovation index, etc. And when the market collapsed, virtually everyone that I had talked to collapsed with it. So people were going to lose their homes in my family. People weren't going to graduate from college. Students who should never be unemployed were unemployed. And what happened was I didn't escape the recession because I saw it first. What happened was I became the bank or the helper to all these people who were going through it. And I called my publisher and I said, I want to change the book. And they said, what do you want to change it to? And I said, I want to write a cross between a business and a self-help book. I want to write a book for everyone else who's struggling with this because they need some tools to get through this. They're having trouble making their dream come true. And my publisher said, well, we're not interested in that book. So what was interesting was that's what brought PBS into the picture, and that's what brought Random House into the picture for this book, Innovation U. So what the book is very different than anything I've ever written before, because most of my books, if you're familiar with my work, is about strategies and models and methods and ways of winning the football game, if you will, or recipes for success, whatever metaphor you want to make. This was a book of stories. This was a book about, let me give you a concept, and then let me tell you a story about how somebody used it. And I have to tell you, Skip, I've never written a book like this in my life. It was a labor of love, but I've also never gotten the response that I got from this book, which is I can't tell you how many hundreds of emails and letters I've gotten from people who were unemployed, or people who had a bad relationship, or were trying to lose weight, or had a religious experience in their life and they were trying to make sense of it. And it's opened up a whole nother window for me in that I do a lot of this kind of talking to people on all the airplanes I'm on, and students who come in and see me. But I
probably get a lot more. I saw you on TV.
Yes, I've never sort of done the let's think about your life kind of thing. So yeah, it's been really rewarding, and in fact, it's produced. I'm writing several other books that kind of are in this line right now that really kind of support this. But it's really based on, people want to go farther. I've got the concept of hide inside of Trojan horse projects. How do I take that to the next step?
Well, thinking about innovation and people, there's always a debate of leadership. Is leadership learned, or is it something that you're born with, qualities of leadership, etc.? How about innovation? Is innovation something that you're born with, your mind is wired toward innovative thinking, or is it something that you believe is...
Well, I have what I call the three answers, because people ask this question a lot, and it's a great question. And our democratic longings want us to say, yes, everybody can do this. And there's a lot of popular books that say this, but the research and your own intuition tells you that's not true. It's simply not true. There really are kind of three things you have to remember about this. The first is, yes, everybody is creative, that's true, but to different degrees and in different ways. So think of it like you may be able to play the piano, but you may not be Mozart. You know what I mean? So the first is there is a level of magnitude when it comes to skill, right? So in any particular way, some people are going to be naturally more skilled and some people are going to be less skilled. But there's a redeeming sort of point here, which is we're skilled in different ways. And it's not that everybody has the same level of skill, but think of it like superheroes. The Fantastic Four. Somebody can be on fire and fly around, and somebody's super strong, and so, somebody has an ability to make force fields, and somebody's a genius. The issue is, how are you creative, and when are you creative? So what is the natural gift that we're going to build on top of? And I think the final piece that people continually miss is that creativity and innovation doesn't happen outside of a context. It depends on what you're trying to create. And I like to say how you create is what you create. So the notion is, I may be creative in a classroom, but somebody who's working on a car may be creative in how to solve that problem in a way that I'm not going to be creative. So the three answers are, there's a magnitude to creativity and innovation. The second is that there are differences in how we create, which are substantive and important. People need to find their gift. But the third one is the context in which you're trying to create is everything.
whatever you're creating, goal setting is very important, and we can't cover your entire book. You have to read it and it's one you have to read slowly, I think, and kind of digest each chapter. But one area that you have in there for creation is goal setting, and you talk about three parts of goals: being specific with your goal, being feasible with your goal. But I want to ask about the third part. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow goal. What does that mean? Concept of wow.
Well, it's interesting, because in these innovatoriums where people come in and they've, some of the biggest solutions that your viewers have seen, we've worked on some of those. And here's the biggest challenge. When people sort of look at ideas and they're all up on the boards and we're in the middle of what feels like the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and we're humming along, what's going to happen is people are going to naturally converge. They're going to naturally pick the idea that they think is going to be the easiest to build. What I have to do is to encourage them to pick the wow ideas. Now, there are 4 types of innovation that I write about in the book, and each has a different wow. So, the create type of innovation, which is the most radical, and we'd associate that with like a miracle drug or Apple or someplace like that. Wow for them is we've never seen it before. New to the world, Can we really do that kind of stuff? The opposite point of view, the control point of view, the red point of view, which we might associate with something like McDonald's, where somebody, presses a cheeseburger button and somebody simultaneously shoots a cow in Argentina, bang, and kind of everything in between happens. Oh, come on. That's where cheeseburgers come from, right? That kind of wow is it's turnkey. You press the button and it works right every time. There's the blue kind of wow, which we call the compete kind of wow, which is very much associated with American culture and kind of that Wall Street, bare knuckle, laissez-faire capitalist, the kind of thing we'd see at an investment bank, or MBAs that I teach. They're aggressive and they're all about creating outcomes. Their wow is that it accomplishes the goal in a short period of time and maybe vanquishes a few competitors in the process. And then finally, there's the yellow or the collaborate kind of wow. And that's the kind of wow we might associate with somebody like Mother Teresa, who built these incredible communities, or Facebook, which sort of brings people together, very interested in sort of how things go together and how they last. That kind of wow is, does it really fit with our values? So is it brand new? Is it something I could press a button and a turnkey happens? Does it accomplish our goals? And does it fit with our values? And of course, the ultimate wow is something that does all of that.
Wow. Well, no matter how innovative and clever you are, companies will call you a lot when you're stuck. And people also get stuck.
Yeah.
They just hit those walls of resistance and they just think, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for someone who's stuck, whether it's looking for a job or they're running a small business and they feel like they're not able to turn the corner? What do you tell that person?
Well, in the book I write about what I call the creative eyes process. And the reason I call it creative eyes is saying, people, when they come and talk to me, expect things to be revolutionary, and it's really not. The whole innovation process is actually quite intimate, available, and quite easy to do. So in the creative eyes process, I talk about the 4 things that you have to do, I think it really relates to getting unstuck. The first thing is you have to have high quality targets. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when you talk to people who are stuck and you ask them what they want, they can't give you a straight answer. They're confused. So they'll give you a very sort of general answer. I want prosperity. Well, what does that mean? I want to be successful. What does that mean? And the reason it's important is when you tell somebody they have a high quality target, it's not just about what you want. It's sort of like what a strategist would do. You have to look at a few things. So I tell people in this first step, I want you to think of yourself like you're a Russian nesting doll. Are you familiar with those dolls? Yes. So you're the little bitty doll, right? That's you, and you go inside the bigger doll. That's your family, your church, where you go, where you work, and that goes inside a bigger doll. And that's what's happening in general with technology trends and with politics, which are going on, of course, all the time, and the economy and larger things. So what I tell people, given that Russian nesting doll point of view, is I tell them to look up. And what I mean by look up is pay attention to large trends. What's going on in the world? I want to go back to my point about what created the book. When I asked people, didn't you see a recession was coming? You know what people said? They had two answers. Half the people said no. And I thought to myself, well, how can you not know? And you know what they tell me? They say things like, well, I don't read the paper because it's full of depressing news, or I don't watch the... And I would think to myself, why do you have an education? You have to pay attention to what's going on. You know, the weather changes. The second response I got was, yes, I did, but I didn't think it would affect me. Which I think in a lot of books, there's this kind of narcissism that's very alarming to a real innovator. A real innovator knows the universe doesn't follow your commands. The universe follows its own, you know, the politics, the markets, the economy. It has its own way of doing things. So step one, look up when you're taking that high quality target to trends. Get on trend. Pay attention. Step two, look down. What is it that Skip wants? What is it that your real gifts are? Don't be delusional. It's not about what you want. It's about who you really are. What have you got? And when people do that, it's freeing because you have an enormous amount of resource. You're gifted at certain things. It's not always about what you want to be gifted at, but you know those gifts are going to play very well into getting you where you want to go. And the final is look around. What is your children go to private school, so you know, and that's important to them. So you've got to make enough to do that. Or your mother needs care, or your wife needs to take a year off to finish that degree. It's not just about you. It's about what's going on with your people. Look up, look down, and look around, and from that you will develop a high-quality target. Second, surround yourself or enlist deep and diverse domain experts. I don't know about you, but one of the things you realize very early in life is what you're not good at. My youngest son, Justin, was talking to me the other day. I was trying to do the laundry. And he said, Dad, didn't you help build the first supercomputer in the world? And I said, son, I did. And he said, how come you can't operate the washing machine? I said, I'll explain to you later the art of knowing what you're competent and incompetent at. But the point was, whenever you try and do something, and it's not about people with PhDs or people who've built big businesses, it's just whatever you're trying to do, somebody's already done it. Go and talk to them. You're trying to lose 50 pounds. You know somebody who did. They become one of your deep and diverse domain experts. You know somebody's a doctor. Maybe they can give you some insight as to what's healthy for you. You know somebody who goes to the gym every day. You go to the gym with them. Whatever it is. So whatever it is you're trying to do, ask yourself, who do you know now? So that gets you unstuck because they already have an answer. Now this is a radical proposition because what I'm suggesting is half the time when it comes to personal innovation, somebody already knows. You just got to find them. 3, and this is the most important one, take multiple shots on goal. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people get stuck in the planning cycle. They plan and plan and plan for their big book. I'm going to write the big novel someday. You know, you're in the publishing business. You meet these people all the time. I'm planning my huge novel, and the years go by, and they never write. And anybody who's written a lot of books, like I've written a lot of books, the way you write books is you show up every day, and you write some pages, and you go, oh, that didn't work. And maybe then you write some different kinds of pages in a different voice, or in a different style, or in a different place, right, or in a different font. What you're doing is what venture capitalists know, and that is a venture capitalist will give 100 people a little bit of money for their therapies for the same disease state. And what they're doing by spreading, or what we call hedging, what they're really doing is they're not only trying to manage risk, because they have very little money or risk in doing this, they're fishing for opportunities, they're prospecting for opportunities. And so what will happen is they're very quickly accelerating the failure cycle. And this is the key to the whole thing. Most people are so afraid of failing because they're planning to fail big. Don't fail big. Fail small by widening things. But it's going to create the one thing that all of your viewers are going to need, and that's momentum. Now the final part is learn from your experience and experiments. I can't tell how many people I've met who would say something like, oh, I'm having trouble in my relationship. And they'll want to talk, people will talk to you on the plane all the time. So they want to tell me about
whether you want to have them talk to or not.
That's true. That's true. But I'm a pretty easy to talk to guy. So I'll listen to them and I'll start talking to them about past relationships. And what will be true is that they'll have patterns. They will have gone through this kind of situation 3 or 4 times. And I'll ask them, what have you learned from the previous ones, or why aren't you learning? You know, the notion is this has happened before. How do you get smarter? So the point I'm trying to make is if you try and get people unstuck, that last step of saying, now what do I know? Because now you have real knowledge and you become unstuck. So high quality targets, deep and diverse domain experts, multiple shots on goal, and learn from your experience and experiments. If you fail and you don't learn anything from failure, you're just a failure.
You're left there. Well, I want to thank you, and we are going to spend some time innovating because I'm here now taking this PhD of business and all of these things corporate, moving into this psychotherapy range of people on the plane, and I'm going to take advantage of that myself right now. So thank you very much for talking with us about all of these ideas, because they're ideas that any business or person can incorporate into their lives. It's a great book, and I really, really thoroughly enjoy it, and I know people will enjoy watching the program as well as the book. All of your books. Can
I add one thing, and that is if you go to the Innovation YOU website, every day there are 20 new articles in areas like family and finance, etc. 20 new articles, courtesy of Thomson Reuters, that come up every day. So when you're on the path, there's no charge, no anything. When you're on the path, this is a gift for those people who are trying to remake their lives. And Skip, I just want to thank you so much for coming by to see us.
Good to see you. And also I should say the book's nice because it tells you which kind you are, and you can pretty much figure that out through the quizzes. So
absolutely.
I think people will really enjoy that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.